What's what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the show, right? And today we're going to be highlighting what is probably the most depressing day so far of the summer transfer window for Manchester United, right? And as you guys know, as you guys may have known from the shorts that I would have posted before this video comes out tonight, right? It's a bad day for Manchester United because Arsenal are in concrete talks with Victor Gyokeres. And in my opinion, like I said in the shorts, I've spoken to you guys in the comments. I've talked to you guys in the comments, right? I want Victor Gyokeres at Manchester United. Let me put that out clearly. I want Victor Gyokeres. Gyokeres is my priority striker target at Manchester United. Whether the club wanted Liam Delap or not, whether we want another striker, whatever the situation may be, I would personally choose Victor Gyokeres. Why? Because he knows the Ruben Amorim system. I'm sorry. I've talked in depth on this channel about the fact that Ruben Amorim has a unique system. His striker, while it can be played by a multitude of players, because I don't think it's one of the most technical positions in his system. Don't get me wrong, striker is a very technical position. But in Ruben Amorim's system, I think the midfielders have a particular role that they need to fill to work in his system. I think the wing backs, the wide players need that specific technicality. And I think the most important position is the number 10s, right? Because they're so unique in the way that they function with the wingers that those players need to be specifically catered, right? As for Gyokeres, he knows how to work with a Ruben Amorim system where the 10s know what they're doing. But don't get me wrong, if we bring in a striker, right? I'm not saying that we won't bring in a striker, but should we bring in another striker? Yes. Victor Gyokeres would be the perfect striker because he knows how to work in a Ruben Amorim system. Plus, let's not kid ourselves. The Portuguese league is a strong league. Is it the Premier League? Obviously not. Is it La Liga? No. Is it within the top 5 leagues in Europe? Yes. In my opinion, it is. And he scored a metric boatload of goals in Portugal last season. And obviously, yes, he is at Sporting, right? One of the stronger teams in the league, right? And you would expect them to dominate, not dominate the entire league, but most teams in that league. But I still think he has qualities that would match perfectly in the Premier League. Now, don't get me wrong. We've seen reports of Rio Ferdinand and the mistaking who he was talking with, right? But they were saying that Victor Gyokeres would not work in the Premier League. All he is physicality. And I don't think that's true, right? Don't get me wrong, I don't watch the Portuguese league too much, right? But I did watch his highlights for all of the games that he did play in Portugal this season, right? The highlighted versions of that. And I did see a couple of full-length games in the Portuguese league. And I think Victor Gyokeres is more than just a striker. You can't tell me by looking at the way Victor Gyokeres plays that he's a Holland type, where Holland realistically, the 90% of his game is the physicality and the finishing, right? Victor Gyokeres, I think, can drop in and facilitate one of the number 10s by playing them in. I think he is obviously physical, immensely physical, fast, powerful. But I think his highest attribute is his finishing. If you give him a sniff within the box or around the box, I think he will put it on target. He will put most of them in the net. And I think that's what we need at Manchester United. And it's sad to see that he will most likely end up at Arsenal. And the reason I say he will most likely end up at Arsenal, right? Let's talk about this, because on the channel, we've talked about the fact that United still have that pull, that attraction, right? And Wemo chose us over the likes of Newcastle, who are in the Champions League, over the likes of Arsenal, right? And that's why I had hope. Even though I knew it was a long shot, I had hope that Victor Gyokeres would come to Manchester United. Now, before we continue, right, it's not completely confirmed that he will go to Arsenal, right? I just think, given the choice, if Arsenal do put in a concrete offer to Sporting, and Sporting accept, I think that he will choose Arsenal over Manchester United simply for the fact that they are in the Champions League, which I want to get into it. We talked in depth about it, right? But it just adds more salt to the wound of losing that Europa League final, right? We have to move past it, but it just, everywhere you turn, it's just more salt in the wound, more salt in the wound. It is what it is. And let's not kid ourselves, right? Fabrizio Romano hasn't actually come out with anything. This is from CNN Portugal. Now, they are a reputable outlet. Would I put them over Fabrizio Romano's reports? No. I'm still waiting to see if Fabrizio Romano comes out and says anything. Once I hear something from Fabrizio Romano, in the sense of once I read something that he has said, or once I've seen one of his videos where he has said that, yes, Arsenal are in talks, then I think the hope for me is basically all gone, right? I just don't see how we can get it done. My only hope that I would give to you guys right now, right, is this a ploy by Arsenal, right? We know Arteta wants Benjamin Sesko. We know dealing with RB Leipzig or any of the RB clubs is difficult. They want a lot of money. They have their whole system of getting players between their clubs and all this yada yada stuff, right? Is this a ploy by Arsenal? By opening up talks with Gyokeres, is this maybe forcing RB Leipzig to think, oh, well, maybe we won't get an offer for Sesko, and maybe Sesko will run down his contract, so maybe we should just accept Arsenal's offer? It could be all mind games, which I'm hoping it is, because I don't know where United go from this. Now, Mateta has gone very quiet. I haven't heard or read anything or seen anything regarding Mateta to Manchester United, and is he a good striker? Yes. Is he the striker that I would want at Manchester United for the future? No, because I think we could get better. But I would take him if we can't get anybody else. Benjamin Sesko, who knows how much he's going to cost? What other striker targets do we realistically have this summer transfer window? And that's really the main question that we have to answer. Because if it's not Gyokeres, then who will it be? Now, on the bright side, if we don't get Gyokeres, is there another opportunity to sign a striker? Yes. The main one I would go for is a Victor Osimhen, right? Now, I'm a big fan of Victor Osimhen. I've watched him at Napoli. Don't get me wrong, I haven't watched him at Galatasaray just because it's hard to get the Turkish league rights where I am, right? I can't really watch them all the time. But he is an immensely talented striker. He is an older striker. Don't get me wrong, not old, but you guys know what I mean. He's not the 22, 23, 24-year-old striker. So he fits the bill of an experienced striker that I think whoever remains at the club for next season out of the current crop of strikers can learn from. And I do think he is adaptable. I think he will fit the Ruben Amorim system, right? Pacey, strong, good finisher. He's played in Serie A, which, say what you will about the slower pace of play there, but it is a physical league in terms of strikers versus defenders. The defenders in Serie A are very good and very capable, right? So would that necessarily translate directly to the Premier League? I think it would, in the sense of Victor Osimhen will be used to playing against fast, strong, capable defenders, right? It's not like we're bringing in somebody from the Eredivisie, right, for example, right, where obviously it's a good league, but it's not Serie A, right? Is Victor Osimhen the potential answer to this conundrum? Well, maybe. And here's why I say maybe, right? Victor Osimhen rejected a move to Saudi Arabia with Al Hilal this summer transfer, right? He is going to be expensive. Realistically, dealing with Napoli to sign Napoli players is a hard thing, not just because United are who we are, right? Because we make a mess out of every deal we do, 9 out of 10 times, right? But any club that deals with Napoli for any of their players have a hard time paying a good fee where both clubs can be happy, right? Or even paying Osimhen, right? I think he will want a lot of money. Now, without Gyokeres coming in, can we work a deal with Napoli? I think so. And is Osimhen open to coming to the Premier League? Yes. I mean, reports today literally said that he is dreaming of a move to the Premier League. I personally have always been surprised or shocked that the likes of Chelsea haven't gone into Osimhen or in for Osimhen, because I don't know, something about Chelsea and African strikers. We know their history with Drogba, for example, right? It just, for some reason, that just makes sense to me. I don't know. But Osimhen is a Manchester United fan. Can we sway him? Can we use the name that we still hope, in my opinion, I still think, but others hope that still has the draw? I think that is a potential opportunity, right? Now, is there anything concrete? No. The only thing we have to go off of is that we've heard reports that Osimhen is dreaming of a move to the Premier League this summer transfer window. And at the end of the day, that's the one striker that I think, right? Victor Gyokeres, number one. Osimhen is pretty close by after that. And then I think we have a drop to a Mateta or a Jonathan David or any other striker, realistically, right? So let me know that in the comments. Would you guys, if United don't get Gyokeres, right, would you guys be okay with a pivot to the likes of an Osimhen? I'm not saying we will get Osimhen, obviously, because we can make a right mess out of anything. And I think the problem with the Gyokeres deal is that we delayed too long and we still left the door open for the likes of Arsenal to come in. So I just hope that we learn from this mistake because, well, we don't even know if it is a mistake yet. We shall see. But moving swiftly on to another topic that we actually talked about yesterday, right? The goalkeeping situation. And we've talked somewhat in depth about the fact that Donnarumma was linked to United last week. Nothing's going to come out of that story. Nothing's going to come out of that story. We've heard reports today, literally today, Donnarumma is happy at PSG. He wants to stay at PSG. In my opinion, the links to Manchester United were, I was never extremely ecstatic about them because, don't get me wrong, I would love for Donnarumma to come to Manchester United, but realistically, he just won the Champions League with PSG. He's getting paid a lot of money. His agent is most likely angling him for maybe a potentially larger contract at PSG, or maybe just keeping the door open, maybe giving some uncertainty to PSG, right? That they need to offer him a new contract. Whatever it may be, I think we can file away Donnarumma. Donnarumma is not coming to Manchester United this summer. But I still think we need a goalkeeper. And I think we need a goalkeeper of a big name like Donnarumma because as we talked about yesterday, I think the only way you get Andre Onana out of the club, because he still has a contract and he's well within his rights to run down his contract and stay at the club and fight for his place, is to sign a keeper of a big name caliber, a keeper that you bring in and it's like, well, he's not going to be on the bench, right? He's going to be the number one goalkeeper. And out of everybody that's been mentioned, right? Van Bruggen, I've seen some of you guys in the comments talk about Van Bruggen. I don't think necessarily you bring in Van Bruggen, and I mean, for us as fans, yes, we'd start him right away over Onana, but who knows, maybe Ruben Amorim won't. I think you need to bring in somebody like an Emi Martinez, like we discussed about last week, but in my opinion, somebody even a bigger name than Emi Martinez would be Marc-Andre ter Stegen from Barcelona, right? Now, are there any reports linking us to Marc-Andre ter Stegen? No, not necessarily, or not really. But in my opinion, he's the goalkeeper that I would want United to go for. Why? Because you bring in Marc-Andre ter Stegen, you're bringing him in as a number one. He's an experienced goalkeeper, but he's not old for goalkeepers, right? He's in his 30s, but he's not old for goalkeepers. Goalkeepers can play well into their 30s, some even into their 40s, we've seen. But he's a big name. And you look at the squad and you instantly know you're putting ter Stegen in over Onana. I think ter Stegen is good. I mean, I've watched a lot of Barcelona. He's good at coming out. One of the major issues with Onana is that we think he's not good at commanding his area, commanding the box, coming off for crosses. I think that's one of ter Stegen's strengths is coming off for crosses, claiming the crosses. Right? I mean, his injury this season was in part due to the fact that he may have come off for too many crosses, right? But he's an immensely talented shot stopper. To play for Barcelona, you need to be good with your feet. So we'd have the ball playing goalkeeper aspect covered. The same reason as why we bought Onana. But I think ter Stegen is just in another realm of shot stopping ability compared to Onana. And I think that narrows it down to two goalies, for me at least, personally, that I would like to see come to Manchester United, right? It would be Emi Martinez because I think he is less of a ball-playing goalkeeper than what we would like, but Premier League proven. He has a big ego. He is, he thinks he's him. He is him, right? And he's a good shot stopper. Realistically, he is a good shot stopper. You can't take that away from him. On the other hand, I would prefer ter Stegen because a bigger name forces Onana to really consider his future at Manchester United. Better with his feet. I think he is a better shot stopper than Emi Martinez. Say what you will about that. Let me know that in the comments, actually. Who would you guys choose? If we were in a situation where we could get rid of Onana, between Emi Martinez and ter Stegen, who would you guys choose? And I think he's at an age, both of them are at an age where 3-4 seasons, they can still play at Manchester United at the top level. And within those 3 and 4 seasons, right, we could bring in a younger or a semi-younger goalkeeper that can be their understudy and then take up the mantle, right? Because I don't want in 4 or 5 years to basically have the goalie's too old or we want to move the goalie on, we ship them out like we did with David De Gea, for example, and we have not already made a replacement, because I think you can't build a solid foundation without a good goalkeeper, especially these days, right? But we shall see. I'm hoping that pretty soon we'll get linked to a goalkeeper. Honestly, I know yesterday we talked about the fact that I think after the signing of Mbuemo, I think we'll have to sell a lot of players before we bring in a striker. I think the Arsenal news forces our hand in a way where, yes, we're still focused on signing Mbuemo, but if we do go for a striker of Gyokeres, right? If we go for Gyokeres, we can't wait to sell players, and I think this will put the club in a between a rock and a hard place because they'll have to either sign Gyokeres or try to sign Gyokeres without selling players because, in my opinion, the ideal plan, at least what I think United were trying to do, was sign Cunha, sign Mbuemo, sell a couple players, then sign Gyokeres, and then move on to the rest of the team. Right now, we're almost being forced in a way to sign Cunha, potentially sign Mbuemo, or focus on the striker first, and then the sales will come eventually. Right? Is this going to drag out? Honestly, had Arsenal not been linked to Gyokeres, I mean, concretely talking to him, and then I think potentially starting to talk to Sporting very quickly after this striker scenario could have dragged on well into August. I think well into we probably would have played the first couple of games of the Premier League season without a new striker. Now we're being forced to make a decision. We're being forced to speed up the transfer, right? And as for the goalie, I think if you guys are optimistic of signing a new goalie, the only way this happens is if we get Mbuemo and we get a striker in, and then we move on to the rest of the team. And for those of you that think goalie is an extreme priority, I think you guys will be happy about this Gyokeres news because it forces us to decide who the striker will be, go for the striker, get him or get somebody else, which then frees up the, I guess, headspace or ability to talk about the goalkeeper, the center mids, wing backs, if that's even a consideration this summer, depending on how much money we have, right? But overall, I think now it's not time to panic yet, but I wouldn't also say that it's not time to sit back and think that any of us will get the job done. I think it's time to, get a little bit antsy, maybe start asking a few questions, what's actually happening. I mentioned that at the summer transfer window. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Leave a like, subscribe. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers before the start of the Premier League season. And I shall see you guys next time for the next video. Peace, and take care.